run by foreign interest, following UN treaties, shutting off the power plants outside of law, opening the borders outside of law, raising taxes, Obama says, outside of law with executive power. And you've got a dictatorial federal government that takes orders from foreign, corporate, and governmental interest. Are you a conquered nation? We are, by the very definition, like colonial China or colonialized Africa or Latin America. We have been captured. We have been manipulated. We have been divided and conquered, as Martin Luther King warned.
This is a protest, and this is a riot. If you can't tell the difference, then you are part of the problem. Infowars.com.
Here's what Alan Greenspan has to say about the private Federal Reserve that has dominated this country through fraud. He says it's above the law.
What is the proper relationship? What should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
And that's done with a straight face by a mild-mannered, well-spoken, friendly little old man who takes his little doggy for walks. He actually headed up the cartel that launders over $1 trillion in drug money worldwide, $500 billion a year in North America alone. Look it up. So understand something. The private Federal Reserve, no oversight from any government agency, not Congress, nothing. It's private, but oh my gosh, we can't have the states have any independence, and we've got to have the world government through the UN, who's already telling the Justice Department what to do on guns, you name it, and on borders, telling us what to do with our police departments, with city councils we elect and we control. Oh, but it's all done to stop racism, right? We talked about it last week, and I said I wanted to get it organized and do it. If you want, I'll call the shots. I'll pick the day the Planned Parenthood, or you guys could, and we need to send out folks and call for folks to join our reporters to hold up signs, Black Lives Matter, outside of Planned Parenthood. Because Obama says black communities are basically at a disadvantage. They were actually at an advantage being suppressed. It made them stronger. I'm not saying that oppression was good. It just did what Nietzsche said and what Victor Hugo said and what Carl Jung said and every other philosopher and psychologist said, that prosperity makes monsters, adversity makes men. But we know now what's happened to the black community. It's been destroyed. And the very same science of control is being deployed now against everyone. And you can see it. American culture's dead. The family's pretty much dead. We're in free fall. We're a debtor nation with 100 million people on welfare. And we now have race, tribal politics, and total ignorance. And young people, I don't care what color they are, don't even talk to each other. They play video games and play on iPads all day. We are in free fall, fighting with each other down the toilet. Let's go ahead and go to Al Sharpton with the next phase of the conquering of America.
We've been fighting it all over the country, which is why we're going to do this march from here to Washington. We need the Justice Department to step in and take over policing in this country. In the 20th century, they had to fight states' rights, and to get the right to vote, we got to fight states' rights in terms of closing down police cases. Police must be held accountable. I don't think all police are bad. I don't even think most are bad. But those that are need to be held accountable.
Now, black unemployment's doubled. The number of blacks being put in prison has accelerated the last 7 years. Just look it up to all-time records. Just search. Blacks incarcerated all-time high. The social welfare net for inner-city blacks has been removed partially. But it's okay because Obama's supposedly black. I guess he is part African. I guess we're all kind of African at the end of the day. That's where humans, they believe, originated. But then if you expand on that, the federal prisons are full of black people. But it's okay because she noticed the last attorney general was black and the new attorney general is black and a woman, even better. Better not criticize her or you're sexist too, not just racist. That's a double goodie. It's all about blacks in the inner city seeing the feds as the savior, so they'll say federalize, federalize, and the police departments will roll over so they get left alone. If you try to control the border, if you try to arrest drunk drivers or illegals or felons or arsonists like Sheriff Arpaio, you get SWAT teamed and you get federal indictments and federal lawsuits. Because the feds work for the private, run-for-profit, federal in-name-only reserve that says it's above the law. So the Federal Reserve's above the law, and no one ever dare talk bad about it. And I guess the president's above the law now. Everything is above the law except the Congress and the people and the legislature. See, everything that's actually constitutional, is under attack and needs to be dismantled. But we better trust the bureaucracy and the foreign interest, because Alan Greenspan said so, and Al Sharpton, the thug who doesn't even have to pay his taxes, well, of course, he's a made man. He's the Don Corleone of Brooklyn.
We're on the march.
I got a bunch of clips I want to get to. A huge trade deal they're ramming through that's not a trade deal at all. It's the North American Union merging with the Pacific Union and the Asian Union, exactly as the Trilateral Commission said they would do. In fact, will you guys print me Barry Goldwater's quote from No Apologies in the 70s where he talks about the Trilateral Commission's plan? Thank you. That's the former senator and presidential candidate who almost beat LBJ, and we wouldn't have had the Great Society and all the things that happened and the nightmare that's now unfolded. And I want to tie that into Obama saying some communities have odds stacked against them. And then big Jade Helm developments that I'm not going to get to yet, but this is really the anatomy of propaganda that we're going to be dissecting and breaking down here today. The system is coming after the Liberty Movement. There's a big article on Infowars.com today. Alexa caught fixing ratings to target anti-Obama news sites. And he did a great article. I contributed a small amount, so my name's on it. But I think, Paul, you're doing a great job. You should add that Nielsen's been caught fixing ratings for MSNBC and CNN 5 years ago and then again 2 years ago, just to show the tissue of lies and the MO of these people. I'd also show Arbitron caught manipulating stuff against certain shows. You can look that up. And I would also, we need to get our graphics department to take Infowars.com, October 1st last year, and Alexa side by side and show MSNBC. And on October 1st, we go down, they go up. It's the inverse. On that day. And then you see Infowars climbing, though we're down in a pit, Drudge climbing down in a pit, Breitbart climbing down in a pit, The Blaze climbing down in a pit, WorldNet Daily climbing down in a pit. And then we show our Google Analytics right next to it with a 30% increase. I mean, it's a fraud. A stinking giant. And, of course, the head of Amazon worships Obama and announced 3 months ago he's working with the CIA, letting them put servers inside to take all your data. Just Google Alexa and the CIA co-locate servers. October 1st. And we have all those graphs. I want to have our graphics department simply take a screenshot of Infowars in the last year and MSNBC and show them, put them over each other with them going up, us going down. It makes an X. The exact point, October 1st. And then every other site's the same. I mean, that's what's powerful. That's what's over the top. Absolute proof in your face. Now, before I get to the dismantling of the country and the evidence of that, I want to play this clip. Obama, some communities have odds stacked against them. And you know what? That's actually true. But he's not telling you what's stacked against you. We're going to play this and then come back and break it down. Here is who Jamie Foxx calls the Lord and Savior. Notice I haven't talked about the Mayweather fight. As phony as a $3 bill in my view. People that watched it said it looked fake. And then you got to see Jamie Foxx singing the national anthem, doing a horrible job, I'm told. And just the elite all landing in their jets to all be seen like a bunch of narcissistic peacocks. When I was a billionaire, I'd be broadcasting from like super cool, you know, fabulous destinations and seeing all the beauty of the world. Wouldn't be hanging around like a peacock up in a tree chirping. But I digress off on a Jamie Foxx. Here is Obama creating disunity, class warfare. Here it is.
We can't guarantee everybody's success, but we do strive to guarantee an equal shot for everybody who's willing to work for it. But what we've also understood for too long is that some communities have consistently had the odds stacked against them. That there's a tragic history in this country that has made it tougher for some. And folks living in those communities, and especially young people living in those communities, could use some help to change those odds. It's true of some rural communities where there's chronic poverty. It's true of some manufacturing communities that have suffered after factories they depended on closed their doors. It's true for young people of color, especially boys and young men. You all know the numbers. By almost every measure, the life chances of the average young man of color is worse than his peers.
Hit pause. I could spend an hour on why Appalachian whites can't get out of poverty and on why blacks can't get out of poverty on average. It's not really true. Blacks are actually becoming some of the wealthiest subgroups and largest upper middle class groups. When it comes to that demographic of upper and nouveau riche, blacks are just exploding. But that's blacks that see through it all and escape it. Dynamic, smart, hardworking, competitive, don't have chips on their shoulders, don't make people feel uncomfortable. They go right to the top. Right to the top. Whether it's journalism or science, corporate sales, CEOs, managers, alpha male black guys who don't have chips on their shoulders make some of the best executives out there. That's well known in corporate America, but I'm digressing. Massive chips on their shoulders, taught to have chips on their shoulders, taught by MTV and the gangster culture since the 70s and 80s to go out and join a gang and to hate everybody and to think everybody's out to get you. I know a lot of white yuppies like that and slackers in Austin who won't work, who are trust fund kids, who are spoiled brats, and they remind me of growing up in Dallas of black people that had chips on their shoulders I knew and thought everybody was talking crap to them. But if you look on the graph of the 1960s, black illegitimacy, black crime rates, black bankruptcy, black suicide, on and on and on, it was as low as the whites or lower. Because blacks knew that they'd been screwed over, and they figured something out that Louis Farrakhan talks about. I disagree with a lot of what Louis Farrakhan talks about, but when he says this is true, you want to buy local, you want to build a community, you want to have your own banks, you want to get your clothes cleaned at black-owned shops. I mean, that's one way. If you're going to think whites are all out to get you and do that, and back then the whites were in many areas, and so black people had lower illegitimacy on average in the 20s and 30s and 40s. Then that all changed. The highest in the world, the highest criminal rate, everything. I mean, did white men make gangster rappers always go shoot each other every 2 days in the news? Where there's some hip-hop event and people shoot each other, or they try to shoot because that's what people see as cool. That's being sold in the white community now. There's like this hip-hop rap country now that's all thugged out. We're like guys with grills in their teeth and long mullets rapping to country. And I mean, you can go find areas in the country and suburb white areas where It's like some mutation between thug culture from the blacks and thug white trash culture. It's just